Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to begin our discussion now, hosted by the Calm Collective. So, if you're enjoying the music just now, that is Joshua Simon's latest single, We Are Done, and actually an inspiration to why we're speaking today. But before we get into that, a quick introduction to the Calm Collective. If it's your first time here, welcome. The Calm Collective is all about normalizing the mental health conversation in Asia by organizing talks like this around mental wellness. So thank you guys for having me moderate today's discussion. I'm Victoria Cheng. And today we're going to touch upon the topic of people pleasers. So whether it's in our personal lives or at work, many of us struggle with people pleasing. Um, you might identify as one of these people. Do you find it hard to say no? Are you averse to conflict? Do you find yourself overwhelmed from saying yes too often and then you're just stuck with so much to do, or you're feeling stressed or anxious because of it? So in this talk, our panelists will unpack the need to please and discuss healthy ways to work through it so that we can start living life on our own terms. So with that, I would love to introduce our two panelists today. We have Dr. Geraldine Tan. She's the principal psychologist at the Therapy Room. Thank you for joining us today. And we have Joshua Simon. He's a radio presenter on KISS 92 FM, and he's the podcast host of the SG Boys. It's a LGBTQ themed show which amplifies underrepresented queer voices in Singapore. And earlier we heard his single, We Are Done. It's a colorful anthem of resistance against toxic people. And again, an inspiration to today's talk. So we're going to break today's topic down in identifying these tendencies, these people-pleasing tendencies, followed by strategies on how to overcome it. So I see a lot of you guys are saying hello. So yes, please feel free to comment, make any or type down any of your questions in the chat box. The three of us are going to be looking at this, and we'll be trying to answer as many questions as possible. So with that, I just want to say hello to Josh and Dr. Geraldine, if you guys want to say hello. All right. So with that, let's get into this. We only have an hour to talk about this huge topic. Let's get into this first. So how do you know if you're a people pleaser? And why do some of us people please? Maybe Dr. Geraldine can explain a bit about the thought process behind this and the origins of people pleasing.
I thought you were going to get Joshua to share his story first, but I can go into the boring stuff first, right? Okay. Let's look at how you identify as being one. And Joshua, you can always jump in to see if you fit one of those. I've got 4 different areas. The yes man. So you're just saying yes to everybody. Or the sorry la person, the person that goes sorry la, everything, they would go sorry. And or you realize you've got no me time. Just help everyone. And then you go, yeah, but I don't have time to even breathe or go to the toilet. You're asking everyone for their approval, whether it is overtly or whether it is, in your mind. Are they going to approve of me? Are they going to judge me? So 4 different types of people. And I do have 3 more. So one is the empaths, those that are very, very sensitive. The overachievers, those that are very perfectionist. And who I call the broken person. So those that have gone through experiences, traumatic past, and they want to prevent something bad from happening. So I actually have 7. I thought I had 3, I was 4, but now I have 7. So Joshua, do you resonate with anything? Oh.
Yeah, in fact, I would love to hear the inspiration, behind this topic, and what your personal story on the type of people pleaser you are, Josh.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, can we all acknowledge how gorgeous Victoria looks today?
Thank you.
So
Look at
beautiful.
you
Oh
don't
my.
need to please me, Josh.
Yeah,
Thank
oh,
you
oh,
though.
I'm doing it too. I'm doing it too. No, no, no. That was like a genuine compliment, right?
Thank
But
you.
like I think for me it always started as a good thing, right? Pleasing someone for me at a very young age was conditioned to me as this is a good thing to do. When someone asks for a favor, you help them out. And I grew up with a lot of like Christian values of being the good Samaritan and putting other people first. So I every step of the way wanted to get it right. I wanted to just do the right thing and help and love every single step of the way, putting other people's needs first, right? And then I think over time, with feeling betrayal, or when things don't make sense, where you're doing the right thing but the outcome becomes something that's completely something you did not expect, which doesn't make a lot of sense, and you're reading the manual trying to find out why this is as such, and then you start pulling back, and then you start realizing that all those people that you listed earlier, Dr. Geraldine, like I am the yes man. I'm the one who always says sorry. I barely have me time. I'm asking everyone for their approval, but I'm also doing all these things out of fear. I'm also like saying the yes man because I'm so worried you'll say no. I'm saying sorry because I'm afraid that I'll be wrong, and that I need to do this is a sort of a prerequisite to a lot of things. So the question about why I wrote this song "We Are Done," it's because I think about a year and a half ago I started feeling a lot of me saying we're done with certain people, with certain habits, with myself as well. And even though it's a really sassy song, I'm not actually saying it to anyone's faces. I'm not like we're done. I don't want to see you again. It's a lot of me having to put my foot down and be like, this is not healthy. It's starting to get to a point where I'm not thinking about how I'm feeling. I'm not thinking about how much I'm giving. And every good thing on the surface that I think that I'm doing is actually because I'm afraid of something else, or I believe I won't get your time and attention unless I provide in an extremely lavish, grand gesture kind of way. Yeah. So I had to tell myself, we're done. I can't do this anymore.
Uh, so, some people could argue you're just being really nice. Um, there are two questions here I want to ask you guys. What's the difference between being kind and nice versus people pleasing? And why I'm asking this question is what is wrong with people pleasing? What are the repercussions, on your mental health with being overly generous?
For me, I mean, I still want to be nice, right? Because I think even before um I'm at this sort of comfortable state where I'm able to discern between doing something that I feel is right, and for someone that I know um I mean, I think it's there was a period where I flipped around. I was like, I'm gonna be selfish, right? I'm gonna just put myself first, and I'm only gonna choose myself, and I'm gonna start saying no more often. But but I like giving, I like giving. There's it's a love language, right? Acts of service, and that's how my dad also. So all this is sort of conditioned me, because that's how love has been for me, where my parents would give me things, or they'll try to please me. Instead of having the conversation of why we're actually upset, they'll just buy me something, or they'll just provide, hoping that will be okay. So I've done that bit, where I closed up, and it didn't work as well. So I'm at that point now where I am nice, I am kind, I'm generous, I'm giving, but I'm also conscious about why I'm doing something. And I'm also doing without wanting something in return. Like, I'm going to be kind and I'm going to be good, and I will do acts of service for you. I don't need anything in return. I don't expect anything in return. And that is it's it's something that I'm still practicing. I feel.
Yeah. So it's always that it's a tough one because, like you said, it is a form. It could be a love language. I guess, Dr. Geraldine, what is that line? That how do we draw that line? I suppose because I think sometimes when we can try to swing the other way, as Josh put it, like we try to be more selfish about it, try to think for ourselves, but then we end up going too far to the other side as well. Like, how do we find that balance?
Yeah, before we even jump into the difference, right, we need to look at the repercussions of being that people pleaser. So, one is you're being taken advantage of, you're being taken for granted, or you're being bullied. And somewhere along the line, you would lose yourself. So let's just hold on to these three repercussions of being that people pleaser in a negative way. Okay, then we look at kind and the difference between that and people pleasing. So being kind, if you think about being kind, and Joshua's love language is acts of service. When you do acts of service, how do you feel? So I always say psychologists are emotion doctors. So we go a lot into the feelings. How do you feel? You feel fulfilled. You feel contentment. Now, if you are people pleasing, what are you doing? You're doing a lot of fixing. You're doing a lot of preventing. You're doing a lot of avoiding. How do you feel? You feel stifled. You feel stuck. A lot of that obligation. I feel I need to do. You feel trapped into doing that behavior. So it doesn't become natural anymore. It doesn't become comfortable anymore. So those are the two distinctive emotions or feelings that people might experience, whether you're being kind or whether you're just pleasing somebody. You're just there to please someone. So I'm going to hand it back. Victoria, you can actually share too,
Yeah.
No, I'm
if,
very happy listening to
if I could
go ahead,
like jump in as well, because I've also noticed where because I think when we talk about people pleasing and feeling bullied and feeling like I think a lot of us can relate to that, where we feel like we're being taken advantage of, for sure. But I think also for people who are not bullying us, they're not taking advantage of us, and the relationships are actually healthy. I've also noticed that because of that habit of being that people pleaser, I've come into doing way more than is necessary because I'm so afraid of losing them, that I've done that so often, and like I'll always try to buy dinner. I'll buy the super expensive thing for you just to show that I can provide, and I'm gonna be there for you all the time, 24/7. Immediately text back the moment your text comes in, whether I'm busy or not, because it's out of fear, right? And I think over time that has led to an unhealthy dynamic with myself as well. I've noticed, right, by being more conscious about how I've been behaving in sort of like a relationship, for example, right, that it's taking a lot more from me when really that person never really did anything. So I had to like pull back and be like, this is my doing now, actually, right?
That's a really good point. I think when we think toxic relationships or people pleasing, we think there's someone is doing something bad involved, but that's not usually the case. Sometimes we impose this on ourselves, and it's because I think it comes to your own self identity. At least for me personally, I realized it was similar to Joshua. It was a form of needing to be validated or accepted or liked, and that's why I did it. And it wasn't necessarily the other person's fault. In fact, if anything, how I started to overcome this was because of bullies. When you start getting taken advantage of, that's when I started putting my foot down. And it wasn't actually, the nice people that I wanted to please. So I think I I I see a really good question here, which we will get back to, which is what happens if someone else is the people pleaser? Like, what if I have a friend like Joshua? Like, what do I do with someone like him? But before I get into that, um, it's sort of related with Joshua was also just saying that I remember you were telling us about this question, who are you with different people? Would you mind going into that story? I think that was a really nice anecdote and something that we can all kind of relate to.
Yeah, that was something that I shared with you in like a couple of our meetings together,
Mm.
right? Where I remember sometimes we remember the most random things. I remember I was waiting for my bus at Ion and I just felt I was in a state of anxiety and frustration with myself because like I would hear all my life little things like, Josh, you're different with different people, right? And I would take that as, some people make fun of the accent that I have. Where did you get this accent? You were born in Singapore, you live in Bukit Panjang. Why do you sound this way? And then I have to always kind of explain myself. Like I learned English from watching a lot of TV and I love drama and all these things. I felt like all my life I had to explain a lot of these things. But then I started hearing that from people that really genuinely care about me and they're like, we love you, but when we invite this person over or there's someone new, you become a totally different person. Or if you're on a date with someone, you become a very different person. And like we still love you, we just want you to know that you're shifting your personality often. And I get that there's a level of adapting to the environment, but it feels more like you're changing because you want them to notice you. You're changing the way you sound, the way you speak. Like I would do things like I would drop my voice a little bit more because I'm ashamed of being too feminine, right? So I would be a little bit more masculine in front of certain people so that they would like me. Or I would start talking a little bit more about my career just so that they will feel like they ought to respect me. So it was like a very humbling moment when I was at that bus stop and sort of reflecting on what my friend said to me. And I knew at that moment that I had to figure out who I am. And I think we all ask that question, right? Like who am I? And for me, it wasn't I have nothing to fill up that answer box. There was so many things to fill it up. I have so many answers to who am I, and I don't know what to fill it up with because so much of who I am has been shaped by the experiences in my life with other people and how I behave with all these different people. So I was like, how do I now create like a preset of who I am? And I just stick with that.
Have you been able to accomplish that? Have you overcome some of this?
I would like to believe so. I think part of being a bit more conscious about things is I think first of all talking about it very openly is already one thing, right? Because you want to, in that place, you don't want to talk about it, you don't want anyone to notice it, you don't want anyone to notice that you're being different from all that, because it's been like a very natural thing by being so unnatural, right? So I think talking about it has helped, but I think just slowing time down, I don't know if that makes sense, but slowing time down and thinking before speaking and before I just live and exist, I always try to think of like, what am I doing, why am I doing this? If I just be myself, is everything okay? And if I think this person's not going to respect me or whatever, okay, but I'm just not going to do anything, and let's just see how it plays out, and it's been a lot of practicing. It's a lot of trial and error, going into situations like I would before, but doing things a little bit differently and then reflecting and realizing, oh, that actually turned out okay.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna ask how do they normally turn out once you decide to just be yourself and not do it for them?
it's
Is it harder than you expected? Or like what if someone's gonna take this advice, like what I think a lot of it is like the anxiety of like what if this goes wrong?
yeah. I think for me, like when I say like I've changed as a person, it's not sort of like a thing that I'm just sort of throwing out in the air, but it's I've been approaching a lot of scenarios very, very differently, right? And sometimes people, like I had a friend recently say, Josh, you've changed so much. It actually feels really nice to have you around once in a while. I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice. Or remember how last time you do, so sometimes it triggers all these things in me. And I'm like I was reading this, oh my gosh, I was reading this Facebook memories, which I don't know, I don't understand why they have this Facebook memories thing. Like 3 years ago, you wrote this Facebook status. And like the things that I wrote so confidently, just looking at it now, just sounds so selfish and sounds so ridiculous. And like that to me, looking at that, but also being able to understand what created this person, um, I think that feels nice. So that is growth for me. And it happens in a sort of very quiet manner over time. Um, but I don't think, I think to sort of answer your question, I don't think I'll ever reach a point where I'm like 100% I'm good and I'm 100% myself, because I think I'm also always changing, and I'm always reassessing. And like even with things that Dr. Geraldine Tan was like talking about earlier, like I was jotting things down because then I'm gonna put it in my journal and then read about it. And if I feel like I'm at that place where I'm going back to these old habits, then I'll go back to all these things and be like, am I doing any of these things right now? Um, am I asking someone, hey, do I look fat? Like, what is the reason for me asking that question also? And does that feed that desire in me? So yeah.
I think journaling is a really great one. And that was something that has helped me overcome a lot of, repeated mistakes, just writing it down in your worst moments and then going back to it. So these are some of the practical strategies. And it looks like Dr. Tan wants to make a comment as well on this.
No, I actually was enjoying it, and I wanted to jump in because the therapist in me was then wanting to ask Joshua, because I'm really, really curious, right? And I think your fans are also very curious today. Like, who is the person that Joshua wants us to know or to get to know? So it was just a very curious thought that popped into my head, and you don't have to answer today, but if you can, it'll be quite exciting.
It's a very interesting question, right? Could you repeat the question for everyone else so everyone can hear the question and ask themselves that as well, please?
Who is the person that we want people to know? So now I'm directing to Joshua. So Joshua, we can put any name in there and we can ask ourselves that also. Who is the person that we want people to know?
Yeah, it's such a tricky question. Who is the person that we want people to know?
I know.
A friend of mine asked me like a similar kind of question, um, like last year on my birthday, right? Um, and it was sort of like, what is the thing about you that you actually just want to tell people about yourself that you've been like so afraid to ask or so afraid to show or tell, or you've been like incepting in all the little things that you do, but really can you just tell us what is it that you want to tell us about you? And I said that I'm actually harmless. I think I know it's a strange answer, and I'm still kind of understanding what I mean by that, but I still stick by those words. Like I feel like I'm actually harmless. I think so much of society has put so much fear for each other, that this person wants something from you, this person's doing this because they want this from you, or they're trying to sell you something, or they're trying to like promote their thing, which is why they're only here. But I think the thing that I just want, like at least my close friends that I know, they know I'm actually harmless. That even if we run into like an argument or a disagreement, we can solve it because I don't want to cause harm in your life. Like that's not the person that I am. I don't want to hurt you in a certain way, and I might hurt you, but I want to not do that because I don't want to cause harm, right? So that's been like an understanding that some people in my life know, and that's why we're good.
I love it. I love it. It's harmless, no agenda. I'm hearing no agenda. I have no agenda. I come naked before you with no agenda, and that's so beautiful. Thank you, Joshua, for that. I think all of us can think about it. Like, you're absolutely right, because a lot of people come with a lot of agenda, a lot of intentions, maybe for themselves, and when we try to tell people and really work very hard, instead it backfires, right? So we become a people pleaser, and our intention is to please them. So we do come with an agenda. We don't realize that, and people feel uncomfortable. So we think that people don't see it, but your friends do see it, and they called your agenda out.
So there's a question, actually, there are a few questions and revolving around this. Ali has pointed out, don't we act differently in different situations? Whether your work or family gathering or in a sports field, is it normal should we be just this one person, or is it normal to sort of have different faces and different fronts for each of these? And another anonymous attendee has also asked the same thing. How do we navigate, home life with family and people pleasing tendencies within a family situation versus work? Is it different, or do we approach it the same way?
I would love for Dr. Geraldine to tackle this one, because I'm also going to just throw one more thing in. I think a lot of us in Singapore, we like to do things to show face,
Mm.
right? Where we do things because that is the thing to do. And I think with family, it's another tricky dynamic to navigate, where it's like elders before you, they are older, they are wiser, they have more experience, so you just ought to listen to them, or just keep quiet about things. How do we navigate that when so much of life says that you need to like please us and please society and please this family?
Oh my gosh, like our conversation can go on forever. You've just gone into the realm of like culture, society, and it's not just the individual. And we are in an Asian culture where family, where, it's so steeped in culture, and we tend to want to adhere to something because we want our families to accept us, So, it's a very difficult question to answer. And I'm just thinking whether I should throw a theory in, or should I just go into it first. And let me just put it out there first. The very broad answer is being congruent. So if we are congruent with ourselves, we talk about being real, being authentic, but what are all these? Being congruent with how we feel in that particular situation. So if we feel a bit challenged, if we feel a little bit uncomfortable, maybe we should ask ourselves what causes that feeling, and are we being true to ourselves? Okay, because when you ask yourself, maybe you're in a family gathering, and you look at the situation and go, okay, I think I'm just gonna do this, because they are family. Okay, that can be, something that you feel contented with. So you're being congruent with yourself. If you're doing it and you're like, I'm angry, I feel like I'm wasting my time, then perhaps we should check in and say what's going on here. So that's the very broad answer. I can leave it for people to think about it. But I'm going to just segue into the theory I was talking about. And many of us have heard choice theory, reality therapy, CTRT, and there are 5 basic needs. So the first is survival. So it's very physiological, the roof over our heads, food, water. And then there are 4 other needs. So the first one would be love and belonging. Okay, so while I'm looking at the needs, sometimes we have unresolved needs that maybe, we feel we need to fulfill them. That's why we are doing and doing and doing. So maybe I want to feel like I belong to this group, whether the group is a group of friends, whether the group is a family, whether the group is a school. So I would do more and more and more because I need to be loved. I need to be accepted. I need to belong there. It could be that the power need is I need to be recognized for my skill. I need to be validated. I need to have my self-worth. I need to get people to validate my ability and my competency. The other one would be freedom. Okay, the freedom to do anything that I want. And the last one is to have fun. But maybe fun and freedom might not be so relevant, but for some people it is, or they might be. But it usually falls in the love and belonging and power need. So I don't know. I'm going to throw it out there.
No, I mean, that's really interesting. So how does this, I guess all these needs tie back to, I guess to people pleasing? What are some steps, some hard practical steps? I like the question that you had earlier. I also making a mental note. I actually can't answer that question. I found it very difficult to answer that question. So maybe I'm not as over it as I thought I was. But yeah, so some really like hard, concrete steps, maybe for someone who really wants to go down this path to, mental wellness and mental improvement.
Oh, this is a talk that we just spark interest and spark excitement and stimulate all our brains, right? So the first question I gave was, what is the me that I want people to know? And another question flowing into the needs would be, what relationships are important to me? What relationships are important to me? And you can start. So basically, it is a starting point. It is not, I cannot give you the answer. I cannot give you all the answers, but we need to start from somewhere. So the love and belonging, look around, ask yourself, what relationship is it that, you're chasing after perhaps? And that kind of permeated into all the different areas of your life. But perhaps it's that one or two relationship that you really yearn for. Okay. Or is it a skill that you feel rather insecure? So sometimes we feel quite insecure about ourselves. We're not confident, or we don't see ourselves as precious or valuable. And we are attempting to attain that validation from someone, somewhere. Who is it? Where is it?
That's a great question.
I see Joshua is thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a great one as well, and something that people we should all obviously be mindful of. I think for myself personally, that it was a big step. Asking that exact question was a big step in, becoming more true to yourself. So what are these relationships worth to you, and why are you seeking them? And that's the question I would ask myself. Like, what does this person matter? Not because I see them as a lesser human, but more, what does it matter to me ultimately? In the big scheme of things, like, why does it matter? There's a question. So even though we've been talking about people pleasing and that we all self-identify, people, our viewers today, but how, Egan here has asked, at what point does people pleasing become toxic for yourself? And how do you identify it? So we were talking about, the difference between being generous and kind and people pleasing, and what is that actual difference? I know we said earlier one major point was, if you are doing it maybe for your own self, for validation, are there other pointers? if if we're not as fortunate as Joshua to have a friend to just call us out on this behavior, how can we self-identify that?
So the repercussions, I go back to that point, right? Where you feel bullied or you are bullied. Okay. And it can be a feeling because you feel that compulsion to help or to please people, but you please them to the point that you're torn yourself, you're broken yourself. That should give you a wake-up call, right? You're feeling unhappy, uncomfortable. Some people would say that they have lost themselves. They don't know who they are anymore. They're doing and doing, but it's almost as if they're just doing, but they have no more purpose left. So that's quite scary because they suddenly stop and they look at themselves and they cannot recognize themselves. So that's when maybe we should take a breather, take a pause, and ask ourselves, what are we doing all these for? Yeah.
Great. This is Joshua looks so deep in thought right now. I mean, this is why he wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll kind of explain a little bit to why I'm so deep in thought, right? Because it's like I also Googled like some solutions to how to stop people pleasing, and like I was sort of thinking about one of them, which is remove toxic people from your life, right? But the person that I wrote like my song about the We Are Done thing, and the person that I still find myself wanting to like drop by and be like, hey, how have you been, and restart like that relationship or friendship with this person. I know it's just not right for me. It's not right for me. And the thing is that this person is not a bad person and they've done all the right things. It's just that exactly with what Dr. Geraldine said, like it's how I feel when I'm with this person. For some reason, it's just not congruent with who I actually am. I end up feeling like I need to overcompensate all the time. And my conclusion with that is I just cannot. I don't know why, but me and this person just cannot. Our chemistry or something, I cannot be around this person. But I'm so like constantly like when I'm around like Tanjong Pagar area and I'm like, should I just drop by and say hi? So I'm just like constantly in that state of, no, this is not right. Everything ended in a good, clean manner. Let's leave it that way. We don't have to like, hey, I have a new song out. You should, like, don't do that. Don't like this compulsive need to want this person to be in your life all the time. It's disgusting. And like, I don't know why this is that way, but like, I still struggle with that. Right. And I'm just constantly like checking in with myself and like reminding myself that this is not healthy for me. So yeah.
And positive relationship doesn't evoke fear. Remember,
Right?
Joshua? Yeah, you mentioned, right? If you don't do certain things and you overcompensate and you keep doing. So, for the people out there, if you keep doing and doing, and your thought is similar to what Joshua had, if I don't do this, I won't get time and attention. That's sad because people that love you will give you time and will give you attention, and they give it unconditionally. You don't need to fear that it would be taken away from you. So Joshua, thank you for giving us one of the answers.
Like a very raw like example of a patient that like really needs to go to therapy. Like I definitely need to go to therapy, especially with this one issue. You're 100% right. You are 100% right. But like when I say that I am getting better, it just means that I'm able to like catch myself. It doesn't mean like I'm able to be like 100% walk out the door all the time and be like completely fierce, right? There are so many times where I still like, if I'm in that area, I get a little bit triggered. I'm like, should I drop by? And I need to like constantly remind myself. That's all. That yeah, it shouldn't be this hard because I do have friends and I don't feel when I'm with them I have to be like that. I don't freak out like that all the time over like text messages and when is this person gonna text me and all that.
We're on this journey with you, Joshua.
Mute my mic.
Someone actually asked a question and it's how do I please the right kind person, a non-toxic person, and build a closer relationship with them. So is sort of in this situation, if someone, a friend or in your relationship or even family member tends to trigger this sort of tendencies in you, but you want to build a closer relationship with them, is the only solution just avoiding them? How do you navigate that?
We all face difficult questions like that, but I think you saw my expression when I heard the words "please the right person." I'm not sure about that, right? But what if the right person, and I'm going to challenge everyone, right? What if the right person is first and foremost ourselves? Maybe we should just stop and maybe we should just please ourselves first, and go ahead, Joshua.
I was just gonna say, it's such a weird concept because the thing is, for so much of our lives, like we're told to please other people, to listen to other people, listen to your teacher, they know better, listen to your parents, listen to society, you turn on the news, whatever's on the news is real, whatever is in the movies, it's real because it's in a movie. So like you're programmed to believe that you're this small and you need to understand the whole world, right? And then now, I don't know if it's sort of like the trend, but all of us are like, how if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna love somebody else? You need to put your oxygen mask on yourself first, like focus on you. And then so it's hard to kind of like figure all this out, right? Because for so long we have lived to please other people, and then now all of a sudden we're like, we have to love ourselves and please ourselves first. If I may sort of just add on to the question that was just asked earlier, about how to please the right people, right? A tactic, a thing that I learned recently that I've been practicing is matching people's energy and also matching what people bring on the table. So what are your sort of comments on that? Like matching what other people put forward to make sure that you don't overdo it. So for
But
example,
isn't that
yeah,
similar to being that chameleon that you used to be, just
yeah.
in a different way?
Yeah. So it works sometimes, it doesn't work sometimes. Like it maybe like sometimes it works where I'm like, it's okay. I'm like a text for a text, but other times I'm also constantly looking to match what's put forward. So I don't know if that makes sense.
I know exactly what you mean because that's what I do. I'm so curious
Yeah.
for this.
You
But
match other people's energy and what they put forward, right?
yeah, just so that they feel comfortable as well. But it's also a form of people pleasing, right?
Yeah.
You want to make them feel comfortable. So what is? But I guess I'm personally okay with this. I don't know if that's why I guess I feel comfortable doing it because I want it
Okay.
makes me happy that they're comfortable, and I want both parties to be as true to ourselves as possible. I don't know if that means I'm being true to myself. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. It's a very complex. This kind of stuff is complicated.
It is complicated. That's why I love my job, because the human brain and the human behavior is such, it's filled with so much complexity. Um, you know, Matching people's energy, that's wonderful, but what if people don't match your energy? What if you keep matching people's energy and no one matches yours? I understand if we are talking about the situation and whether it's appropriate or inappropriate, but we're not talking about like an event or a situation. We're talking about you just looking at text and, okay, this person texts me one or two alphabets, and then you just match the energy. I will share. So my teen is seated beside me, but I will share. So my teenagers, they have this weird personality. So, and my teen is a boy. So I will text a lovely paragraph. He answers okay. I'll text another paragraph. He answers okay. And then I go, can you write more than okay? What did he text? Oh, okay. And I was like, oh, okay. And if we match his energy, right, we're just gonna have like 2 letter conversations, or it's gonna stop. But I realized, he is responding to me. So I said, are you being, cheeky, and are you just being in that okay mood? He went, yeah, ha ha. Okay, I'm grateful that you answered me. I get it. You want to get back to whatever it is. I'm going to leave you be now. And knowing that if I kind of just match his energy, I wouldn't have that lovely conversation and just really enjoy that interaction on text. Yeah. I mean, and we know, right? So what I'm saying is, if we match the energy, I don't know, is it what was appropriate in that situation? I don't think it was 2 letters from me, but it was um appropriate that I gave him the right instructions, that he knew what to do. That was appropriate. So I don't know. I'm going to just, leave it out there. Appropriate, inappropriate, matching energy, low energy, high energy.
Yeah, I guess it is really dependent on the situation, huh? And I mean, and that's a nice, I guess, harmless example. But I can imagine where I understand your point. If you're constantly trying to match energy, and what if that energy isn't such a good one? Then you end up. I can imagine, in a romantic relationship, I could see how that quickly could spiral into something a really nice fight, for example. So, yeah, okay, that's it. It's a really good point. So, guys, we have about 10 minutes left. So, if you have any questions you have for any of us, I see a lot of good comments here in the chat section. We do have a Q&A panel that, where it pops up differently for us, that we can kind of zone in on your questions.
Too short. We need 2-hour sessions.
I know this is, and that's why I was like, we can really deep dive into this. We have a question here. Question to Dr. Geraldine. From your personal experience, would you see a difference between men and women when it comes to people pleasing?
So the different ways of pleasing people, I mean, there might be, whether it is more physically overt, whether it is just gifts, whether it's acts of service, the different languages of love. Yeah, we do see slight differences there, but pleasing people is pleasing people, no matter in what shape or form it is. Yeah.
And we have another question. How do we say no in a professional setting?
Oh, that question is a little bit vague here.
That is. I don't know if this anonymous person wants to.
Because there are obligations that are linked to your work that especially, I think, especially with work. Heck, I think even school, like if all of us had the choice to not go to class or not do this assignment because we think that, okay, it's not really going to be beneficial math for me. So I'm just not going to do it, and I'm just going to choose myself and say no because it makes me feel anxious sitting in math class. But like, so sort of the thing that I would say to sort of 14-year-old self who want to be like that is, your parents work very hard. They put you into secondary school. They're paying for those bills. And unfortunately, society does require those papers in order for you to pursue your film school thing later on at 17. So you're going to have to sit in math class. And also you want to respect the teacher who's been hired to teach you math, and they're doing what they can. So you're just, even if you don't completely understand, you're just going to behave. So there are certain obligations that we all have with our work, with the circumstances, the environments that we're in, where we have to do certain things. And I think the moment the answer sticks out where it's like, no, this is not right, and it's compromising my values, or it's like when I think of work, right, the times where I have said no were the times where like if I said yes, my brain will not stop telling me that was wrong. And I will grumble all the way through and continue gossiping about it after, right? Which is, I knew that was going to happen, so I just put my foot down and be like, this is not going to work, and I want to share with you why I think this is not going to work, and I'm also going to offer some alternatives in the work setting. You know, for example, sort of the example I'm giving is covering someone's shift, right? So covering someone's shift, you know, and I said, no, I'm not going to cover that person's shift, even though I'm technically I should, but I'll explain why, because it will compromise my own show that I'm also going to have to do, and blah, 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 blah. So that was how I said no. Yeah,
I think it's there's a difference between actual responsibilities, and I think, and then when you go beyond that, I think you can still be a considerate person, and not succumb to, you know, overdoing your people pleasing. You can still be a considerate person. It doesn't mean you should just do whatever you want to do. I
maybe
think
that should be the new thing. Like, don't forget being the nice person. Just be the considerate person.
Yes, I think, yeah. At least for me, that's how I
like that.
I like that.
Ah, she approves. It's good. Good. Okay, so we only have a little bit of time left, but there was an earlier question: is how do we speak to someone, you know, someone else that you see as suffering people-pleasing tendencies? I think being straightforward, like Josh had with his friends, is helpful. And the other question is, there were different types of people pleasers that Dr. Geraldine started listing out. So we have some people who are curious what the other types are. So I guess we'll try to answer both in the best way we can, but I'll let you take it away.
Okay, so what do we do with another person? I think, you know, gently calling it out, like, yeah, you know, I feel, and basically when we recognize it is when we feel uncomfortable also. So we want to see somebody, or we are familiar with the person or the persona that they present to us. And then when they flip and they talk to someone else and you go, hey, this is not the person that I know. You know, you can always highlight to them that they are not being consistent. Okay, so consistency is something sometimes a privilege that we forget, you know, that we should be the same personality in different scenarios. So just let the person know gently, like, hey, I don't recognize you in this, you know, space. Who, you know, who are you in this space? You can ask the question. All you need to do is to set them thinking, rather than to create the scenario that they are defensive. So what your friends did for you, Joshua, they didn't put you in a defensive space. They put you in a reflective space. So that's something that we can do if we recognize it and someone is not being consistent. Right? If they are breaking their backs trying to please people and you recognize that it is a destructive behavior, nudge them gently. There are plenty of mental health professionals out there. And we know that there are more and more awareness. Even on this platform, we are creating a lot of awareness already. So just nudge them gently to someone, to speak with someone. So that's the first question. The second question is easier. There's 7. I thought there was 4, and then I looked at my notes. No, there's 7. Okay, the yes man, the sorry la person, the very busy person with no me time, the one that needs the stamp of approval, empaths, the overachievers that are perfectionists, and the broken person that has a past. It is a summary, so some of it is Jerry's original, so don't quote me. You cannot find it in any article.
Are most people some combination of them, or are generally people just one of these categories?
Hey, sometimes you are more, you recognize one that is more dominant in yourself. Sometimes it's a combination. Sometimes you can have more than 2.
What happens if you're all 7?
Oh no!
Okay.
No, no, no. I mean, there's a little bit of each of these personalities in us. But when we are people pleasers and it becomes something negative, it means that it has dominated our lives.
So I guess there is a question here. How do you overcome the guilt of refusing to people please? Now I know this all ties in with okay. I will just throw that question up. How do you overcome the guilt of refusing the people please? I think it's part of the process. But I guess what would be some, personal advice from you guys on, getting over that hurdle of feeling bad every time you say no?
Boring me or Joshua goes?
I think we want to hear both.
You're far from boring.
Yeah.
Far from boring. I'm learning so all of us are learning so much. Okay, this is great. Free therapy session. Go ahead.
Exactly. This is what we want.
Yeah, you're too kind. You're so funny. I guess guilt is when you feel there is still a lack somewhere. So if you've identified that, you or rather not identified, you think you're being selfish. So your thought is that if I'm not people pleasing, it means that I am selfish. That's not true. That's not the opposite. Not being negatively people pleasing is being kind to yourself, is giving the respect to the people that really need it and giving them the respectful amount of attention to the people that you value. So that cannot be selfish at all. So how can you feel guilty for giving them what they are comfortable with? Because at some point, where you keep giving and giving, people do feel uncomfortable. So that's my thought, very passionate thought, but that is something that I wanted to tell everyone. I see Victoria like, oh my God.
Absorbing. We're just absorbing.
Yeah,
this.
we are.
Speak.
I'm sure. I'm sorry. I'm sure. I don't know about you guys in watching right now. You're probably feeling the same way. It's like, oh yes, that is a really good point. I think it's true. I think this people pleasing kind of ties to being true to yourself. This is something I've struggled with as well, and that line of saying no and when to feel guilty, when not to feel guilty, and I guess not overstepping in the other direction, which is what I went that path where I felt like I just got mean at one point because I was being overly selfish and I justified in my mind like, well, I'm just being true to myself, and I realized actually I wasn't being considerate. So I think it's just this balance of everything, and it depends on everyone's own personal situations. So
yeah, and it's all about, like, I think what you're saying is just being conscious, and and I know it's such like a strange word, but like so the chat, people are talking about like having split personalities and stuff. And honestly, the story I told earlier about like not knowing who I am, that was how I was feeling. I was literally like Googling split personalities, disorders, trying to understand like maybe I have this thing because I am different with different people. Like if I listen to certain music, it will influence my emotions and it'll bring out certain emotions and I'll be a certain way. Like if I listen to a Nicki Minaj song, I'm going to be a certain way. How I speak is going to be a certain way. If I listen to like a really calm classical piece, I become a lot calmer, more mellow. Maybe I have this disorder. And I started thinking as well, like, heck, if someone just prescribed me that, then it will be so much easier to just say, this is what I'm going through. But like, I think the harder thing to do is just be more conscious, which is to sort of, when I'm in a situation, I'm asking myself, what am I here for? What am I here to do? And with whatever that comes in front of me, I'm faced with the question of, if I do this, I'm gonna have to compromise on this. Is that okay? Will I feel okay about it? So I'm reassessing and thinking about all these things and making decisions as I go along, while being in a state of like calm, without being like too ecstatic or afraid or all these things. I'm constantly checking in with my emotions. I'm constantly rating how I feel as well upon 10, just to make sure I'm in a balanced headspace. I don't know if that helps, but I'm just sharing thoughts.
I think it's like, your physical wellness. I think the same applies to your mental wellness. It takes work. If you want it to be going and healthy, it takes a lot of effort, I think. Which is why I think these discussions with the Calm Collective is great. It gives us a space to talk about it and think about it. We have come up to our full hour. This is a really big topic. The Calm Collective, I've seen the Spotify, their podcast list, where they dive further into, very related topics to this. So with that, do you guys have any closing, comments or the last thoughts you'd like to impart with our very lovely audience?
Dr. Geraldine, you want to go first?
Sure. I just have one thing to say, and it's a little bit controversial, but I'm going to throw it out there. It's a quote that I found that I really resonate with. Fake people have an image to maintain. Real people just don't care. So, sending it to everyone.
I love that. That's just so much less effort. It's great. I love that. That is a great parting thought. How about you, Josh? Any?
My parting thought is recently I got this like expensive for someone that I really care about, and this person, like, even before opening the box, just said like, I love you whether or not you give me this, right? Like, I'm still gonna be here. And that just meant so much to me. It is like, I'm not used to that. I always feel like I have to earn someone else's time and attention and respect. And so much of entertainment, Vic and I, we are from entertainment. So much of that is you have to earn that microphone, you have to earn that stage time, everything. So it's just very bizarre to get like that kind of unconditional like love and assurance. So I would encourage everyone to look for that and to give people that. Yeah.
That's so touch. Oh my God, I'm very touched by that. Whoever that person is, keep them close. Oh my God.
Also, my new single "We Are Done" is out now.
Yes. Oh, and guys, if you didn't hear it, for those of you who came in a little bit later, we will close off with that song. "We Are Done." It's Josh's latest single. You'll hear it on the radio, or you can look it up on Spotify. And it's a great anthem and a good way to close today's session. We are done. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Geraldine Tan. Thank you, Josh, for sharing your thoughts, your advice, and your personal stories. I hope this was helpful for everyone out there. And thank you for having us, the Calm Collective. This is a great initiative. Have a great evening, everybody.
Let's party!
Yeah, let's party. We are done.
If you wonder will we ever speak again, let me make this clear, baby, we're done.